Welcome to a 77 English writing session as presented to you by Anthony Charo. Today's English writing session focuses on writing skills, on writing a narrative composition. The learning outcomes for our lesson are as follows: that by the end of the lesson, you will be able to write at least 2 pages of a narrative composition on a visit you had to a health center. Now, our presentation will have the following parts. We shall have the presentation will be having the definition of the narrative composition. Then, after defining narrative composition, we shall also look at a session whereby we shall look at the forms of narratives, then the elements of narratives. Then you will also have steps of writing narrative composition, as well as a session for asking any questions and doing an individual writing task. Then, coming to the definition of a narrative composition, it can be defined as a form of writing that tells a story. Writing to tell a story is writing a narrative composition. Forms of narrative composition can be grouped as follows. Narratives can be either essays, they can be stories, they can be movies, and they can be jokes. I know most of you like jokes, but you may not have looked at them as part of narratives. So jokes, stories, essays are all, and even movies are all parts or are all forms of narratives. Let's look at the parts of narratives. Any narrative has the 3 main parts, which are introduction, the other part is the body, and then we shall have conclusion. So introduction, body, and conclusion are the 3 main parts of a narrative composition. Let's now look at the elements of a narrative. Any narrative has the following broad elements. We have plot or the storyline. The plot or the storyline is the organization of the activities or events in the story, how they follow each other. That is what we call the plot or the storyline. Then we have the characters. The characters are the individuals or objects or animals that take part in the activities or events in the story. Then we have the conflicts, and then we have the theme and the setting. Conflict is the disagreement among the characters. The theme is the main underlying message, and then the setting is the place where the story happens. The story may happen in an urban area, in a school, in a desert. That is the setting. Now, let's look at the steps of writing a narrative composition. Writing a narrative composition is much like cooking. You have to follow some steps so that you come up with a delicious meal when cooking. Now, when writing a narrative composition, there are also some steps that you should follow or considerations to make. First of all, consider the topic. What topic are you writing about? Now, after you have considered the topic you're writing about, then it is proper to make a narrative outline. Make an outline of the way you want your story to make. Then consider the elements as we have talked about them. Description, or the plot, or the characters, or the setting, all of these. Then consider the point of view from which you are telling the story. When we talk of the point of view here, we mean now, what is your role as the person telling the story? Are you telling your story, or are you telling somebody else's story? That is the point of view. Then another step you should consider Consider making your writing as clear as possible. Writing should be clear, whereby you don't use complicated vocabulary. You remember, you are aiming at communicating. It is not a word competition. And also, stick to the story. Leave out any unnecessary details. Those ones may make your story confusing. Then as you describe the event, make sure you write the event starting from the first to the last. In that case, we say you have described your event chronologically, meaning from the first to the last. So we have therefore talked about, the the definition of a narrative. We have also talked about the elements of narrative. We have talked of the steps of writing a composition, a narrative composition. Now it's your time to ask any question that you may have had regarding what we have just been looking at here. So it is your chance to ask. Okay, so if there are no any other questions, then let's go to the session as promised, whereby you are writing a story yourself. Now, this story you're writing is based on a visit you had to a health center. Tell us about that visit. You may consider these guiding questions. When was the visit? You tell us the visit that you made to that health center. When was it? Did you go there alone or were you accompanied by somebody else? Why did you go there? What did you see when you got there? Describe the setting of the health center too. Then also, what did you find there? What services were being given there? Which services were you given? Were there any measures to control the spread of COVID-19? You may also add any other relevant information to make your story interesting. Then now after you have written, it will be a chance for you to share with your peers. So you will get somebody else's story, you read it, and then after you have read, exchange with the colleague. Now read their story and make any necessary changes. If there are any mistakes, note them so that they can make those clarifications or those changes or corrections. Then, after you have been given your corrections, it is also proper that you also rewrite your work or revise it basing on the corrections said. But also, if somebody has given you their work to read, it is not always that you should consider only bad